Welcome to the live stream. Don't look super clear, but anyway, we are live, and I am going to be making vegan apple pie. Yes. Well, I have these organic apples that were canned, and they're brown because my mom canned these from her tree that she grows. And I'm just going to make the crust, so it's going to be very easy. You could cut the apples up in advance. Fresh apples are really delicious, but she just wanted to do this for me. Like she canned these organic apples that she picked from her tree, and she added the sugar and all the seasonings to it, so I don't have to worry about that part. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share. I need to see if my apple pie, I think my crust thing is in the oven. Just trying to find where I put it. So anyway, I'm going to need to share this on my channel. It's on Facebook. Yep. Trying to make sure I have everything. Okay. Share this on Facebook. I'm going to share it on one of my pages as well. Okay. So it looks like what I need to do then is get this where you'll be able to see what's going. Hopefully, I'm going to go into the other window and check. Okay, I guess that's pretty good. Yep, you can see what I'm doing. So I have a bowl. And the first ingredient that I need for my vegan apple pie is flour. Flour. My mom is a master baker. Like, she bakes a lot. Mom's an amazing person. Actually, yeah, she used to cook for all the kids, like even the older siblings. And her mom, I never met my grandma, Maxine Neely. She passed away when my mom was 13. So, like, she learned how to do all this stuff at a young age, and like, she really inspires me. So when we were younger, everything was made from scratch. In the 80s, even, by the way. In the 80s. Like, nobody did that in the 80s. So anyway, well, people did, but I'm using a recipe from my blog. So I'm going to use 2.5 cups of flour. So this is a 1/4 cup, so I need to count them out. There's 4 1/4 cups per cup. So we go 1, 2, 3. I don't sift my flour, I just put it in. 1, 2, 3. 4. I want to look at myself to make sure you can see that I look okay. So right now, probably should put that over so you can see it better. So I put in 4 of those. That's 1 cup this far. This is the second round of the flour. And I never sift the flour. I just like smooth it off. 1, 2, can stir it up with a fork. You don't need to sift it, by the way. That's really old school. You can lighten it up with the fork, and this works every time. I mean, you can sift it if you want to, but that's just an extra step that I'm not going to do. So this is the half cup because I have 2/4 cups. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to make sure all the flour is off the field. I kind of want to check to see if anybody's following along on Facebook because I'm doing a live cook along. It's just me cooking. You can do it however you like, but I just want to see, you know. Oh, I forgot my keyboard. The wireless keyboard, by the way. I just pulled the computer this way so I could see everything. Just want to see if anybody's watching, just curiosity. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. Anyway, so closed it up. Okay, the washing machine's done. It sounds like a spaceship. All right. So I will share the blog where I'm using the recipe from later. But, okay. Next, I have a fork. And I'm going to gently just kind of stir this up. Get it nice and light and fluffy. Okay. I'm a vegan. It's not like I force this lifestyle on anybody else, but I don't eat meat, dairy, eggs, and oh, your hair's gonna fall out if you're vegan. Not so much, really. My hair's halfway to my knees, so yeah, whatever. People in India are vegetarian, and they have some of the most spectacular hair. So yeah. So anyway, in the recipe on my blog. Oh, somebody stopped watching when I said that. That's fine. I had used, I think I'd used coconut milk, but lately I'm using soy milk. Because the soy milk, it has more protein in it. So that's what I've been using. And when I go back to the blog post, let's see. I said a half cup. So it's 2 1/4 cups because this is the measuring device that I'm using. I'm just going to kind of gently mix it in. I need some more for my coffee anyway. I'll just pour some of the soy milk in the coffee. Next, I need the oil. Oil. Okay. This is like a big thing of oil from Costco. Costco oils, Kirkland brand. It's just plain old vegetable oil, soybean oil. You can use whatever kind of oil you want. This is what I'm using. This is what I have. I'll go back to the blog just to see how much oil am I putting in. Putting in half a cup. So it's going to be 2 of these little guys. 1. And I might have more oil on standby or vegetable oil if I feel like the recipe is not mixing together the way I desire. And just want to make sure. Keep it nice and cleany weeny. Clean. Not cleany weeny. I'm talking to it like it's a toddler. Sometimes if the oil spills on the side, you just kind of buff it up. That looks beautiful. Okay, so yeah, I needed something to stir this a little bit better with. Maybe I share this on Twitter. I feel like it's not combining 100% because yes, you can use the half cup, but I'm just gonna add a tiny bit more to just kind of give it some give. The difference is a vegan apple pie has no dairy products in it, because a regular apple pie, people would use butter or they would use milk. Well, I did. If you're following along, you can go back, and I did say what I was putting in that is from my blog, and that I'm using 2.5 cups of flour and half cup of coconut oil originally, but I decided to use soy milk this time, and a half cup of oil. I might just give it a little bit more oil though, because even though it says that amount, sometimes you can add a little bit more, and that's fine. Just a tiny bit more. Because I do follow the recipe, but if it feels kind of dry because it's been dry outside, I just add more. Just the tiniest bit though. Because I feel like it's just not really sticking together the way that it should. And now I feel the give. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's finally, like, I can feel it combining better. Like, I can feel, although I'm going to kind of help it along. And of course, if you're baking, like, make sure you're, like, you wash your hands and they're nice and clean. I'm at home, so if I didn't wash my hands enough for you, just wash your hands more. Like, honestly, it's that simple. I'm not making this, like, if I was making this for somebody, I'd be washing my hands more between going through the keyboard and whatnot. But I sometimes just like to start helping it along like this, because I feel like, I don't know, there's just something about your hands that just incorporate it better, I think, than just solely relying on the stirring process. I have this little roaster oven, and I bake in that a lot, because even though I have this oven right here, I tend to like this oven because, I don't know, it's just more energy efficient, honestly. Okay, so I need to go look for several things that I probably should have tracked down before I started. Washing my hands, keeping it nice and clean. Okay, so I probably should have tracked down the cinnamon. about earlier. Cinnamon. Gram masala is not cinnamon. Chipotle powder is not cinnamon. I should have done this already earlier. I didn't. The powder is not cinnamon. Mint is not cinnamon. Mint is not cinnamon. It is not cinnamon. Raw. I can't find the cinnamon. Just carry on. I'll be fine without it. I love this kind of sugar. It's called Sugar in the Raw. Very good. Let's just see if maybe this one's no. Cinnamon. Okay. I didn't find any cinnamon. Okay. So a pumpkin pie spice. It'll be just as good. It has, if you want to be super technical, it has cinnamon, organic ginger, organic nutmeg. It's just simply organic. Of course, I'm gonna start baking and cooking more. So I got out the rolling pin. I got out Sugar in the Raw for the crust. This time I'm not cutting up the apples because my mom had made these organic apples off her tree that she canned for me. Next step is we need the wax paper. That's gonna be the fun part. Put the thing on wax paper. Okay, so this is what you can do to keep the counter from getting really messy. It's called parchment paper, I think, in other countries. I've used parchment paper before, but to be honest with you, wax paper is cheaper. So you just And if you're worried about environmental stuff, you can compost wax paper, I believe. Well, you can Google that, ascertain if that's true. I'm gonna have 2 sheets of the wax paper. Don't fall. Stay. We need our pie dish. This is our pie dish. Okay, put you there for now. Now, we're going to take the dough and divide it in about half. I'm going to make the bottom half it's about equal. Just eyeball it. But half of that dough. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to really form it into a good ball here. That gets a nice ball, right? Okay, so I want to put the wax paper away so I don't keep it out. Okay, so anyway, so I have it here. I'm going to put it in between these 2 sheets of parchment paper, but I'm going to kind of help it out. Start with, okay. So what I'm doing right here is I'm rolling out with the rolling pin in between the wax paper. So take 1 sheet of the parchment paper off. So it's like that. Try to keep it up, side up. Okay, and then you have your pie plate. cake kit. And peel it off first. You want to keep it as intact as possible. Oh, the dough came out. And you can kind of bring it over. You can bring it over as needed. Okay. This part right here. Just kind of and I just poke holes in the bottom here. Kind of help it settle in. Okay, next, what I'm going to do is take the apple mixture. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, I need a thing to help it out. Okay, a vegan apple pie is, okay, usually like apple pie, most people, is only like a little part of the world is vegan. It's people who, for their own, whether it be like they're part of a movement or just for their own reasons, they don't eat any animal products or they eat minimal amounts of animal products. So when you're a vegan, you don't eat dairy. And by the way, a lot of people have a dairy intolerance, especially if you have like any Asian ancestry, like West Asian, East Asian, or Native American. Like if you tend to have, like you can have a dairy intolerance. And a lot of people don't understand or don't realize when they're eating dairy, it kind of makes them feel sick. So some people avoid dairy just for dietary reasons, for ethical reasons. You just don't use dairy in the pie. In its place, you use oil, or like you could, you know, you could use Earth Balance. I don't do that, but some people do. So anyway, this is the first part of the pie. I want to roll out the dough for the second half. So I'm going to bring us back where we were. Okay, let's see. And then we have the second half of our dough that I'm going to kind of help along into a ball to begin with. So he's nice and firm and ready to go. And there he is. Okay. I kind of, before I start rolling it out, I like to help it just by the way, I will link to a recipe that I made. No. Apple pie can be non-vegan, but apples can only be, it's what's in the dough, okay? So usually, traditionally, like people would put butter in the dough, unless you're using an old oil crust recipe that just happens to be accidentally vegan. But even then, somebody might add milk to it. So no, apple pie isn't always vegan. It depends. Like it can have butter in the crust, like definitely. It just depends on what type of recipe you're using. Yes, the apples are vegan for sure, but the crust might not be. So honestly though, we always made oil crust, and during World War II, because of rationing, that's what people used. But they may have added some milk to it. But during the war, like people didn't have access to like large amounts of butter and eggs. So there was like a popular oil crust recipe in the Betty Crocker cookbook. And people weren't even like choosing to be vegan at that time period. It just happened to be that recipe was a little more plant-based. Accident. But we always made the oil crust. I never liked the butter crust because I grew up eating the oil crust. So I don't like butter anyway, and I don't eat it anymore because I'm vegan. But I always had like a dairy aversion issue. Like it just didn't settle on my stomach well. And I learned that, yeah, I'm actually slightly lactose intolerant because of when I took the 23andMe test. So this could also be for people who have lactose intolerance, you know, or if you want to make a traditional apple pie, you can do that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So you peel it off the paper, and then can't put it itself. I want to do that. So I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of like roll a little, and now I'm gonna start. Like for me, I just start rolling and making like a little pinchy crust. I'm going to cut some slats in the apple pie so steam can be released as it bakes. Okay, so what you need for this part is just a little kitchen knife, and you can cut pretty slats in your apple pie. You can make designs if you like. I'm just gonna cut like these pretty little okay, just pretty little slats in the apple pie. Next, I take cinnamon. Well, I didn't have the cinnamon. I had the you can use whatever you like. I just take this and I brush it. And I'm going to pour some sugar too on the crevice. Pretty. This is just how I like to do it. I like it to be a little bit cinnamony on top. And I just kind of use my fingers to sort of, and then you could take some of the sugar and kind of, like, I don't know, incorporate it into the crust a little bit. Give the crust more character. This is just my like fun way that I do an apple pie. You don't have to add these things to the top, but I feel like with the oil crust, to be honest with you, it is kind of boring if you don't dress it up a bit. So I like to dress mine up a little bit on the top because the apple part is going to be flavorful, but I just feel like I always felt like the one drawback to the oil crust is it can be a little bland. But I found when I did this, like taking a little bit of cinnamon and sugar, just spreading it all over, getting everybody kind of married and happy, and it gives it like this beautiful caramelized look. So Yeah, I need to rinse my hands off real fast. Okay. So this is the vegan apple pie. You can see the pie right here. I will link to the recipe I've made it from previously. And I'm gonna bake it now. Thanks for watching. I have something else. Okay. I need to look out. The next thing I'm gonna make is I'm getting ready to make homemade hummus. So stay tuned for that.